Hi, my name is Sasha. Welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to discover how to secure the data in an Azure SQL database by using a client-side encryption technology called Always Encrypted. This technology is also available on the standard Microsoft SQL Server, and you can use that on premises. If this is your first time here and you want to learn more about advanced analytics, machine learning and cloud computing, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. And to get started, I'm again in my Azure portal. And the first thing I need to do is, of course, creating an Azure SQL database. So let's click on plus, pick from the most popular options an SQL database, and of course pick a subscription, and I already created a resource group called Azure Step-by-Step. And I have to give that database a name, and I want to call it Clinic. And I also need to create a new logical SQL server. Let's call that Azure Step-by-Step SQL Server. That's available. Add a username for the administrator and of course a secure password. Repeat that password, and I have to pick a location which is near to me, which would be West Europe. I don't want to allow Azure services to access that server. I want to control that via the firewall myself. So I click OK. And I don't want to make that part of an elastic pool, but I want to pick a different server size. I want to stick to the standard one. So it will work with every, but yeah, because of costs, I pick the lowest available option, so basic. I don't want to set anything special in here, so I start with an empty database, keep the standard collation. I don't want to start the advanced security trial. I don't want to add any tags. And I'm going to review that. Looks good so far, and click create. And here we go, my database is ready. So let's go directly to the resource, as well as switch to the logical server. And there I would like to change my firewall rules and add my current client IP address to the list. Click save. So now I should be able to access that server from that IP address, and I can close that for now. Let's switch to SQL Server Management Studio. In here I can connect to the database, switching back to the portal for a second, copy the name of the server and back to Management Studio. I can paste that in there. That would be SQL authentication, and I specify the username and the password I picked and connect to that database. Here we go, that's the SQL server, there is my database. And currently there are no tables in there. So therefore I'm clicking on new query and type in a statement to create my database, which is just creating a patients table and with a few columns. Important, I want to secure the social security number as well as, for example, the birth date. The rest is just standard stuff like a clustered index, stored on a primary. And let's execute that command. Let me refresh that list. And here we go, here's my patients table. And now I need to select what columns I want to encrypt with the client-side encryption key. Therefore, I right-click on the table, say that I want to encrypt columns, and a wizard pops up. So let me move that in the middle, click next from the splash screen. And the first thing I need to do is select what columns I want to encrypt. First of all, the social security number and of course the birth date. And I have two encryption types I can pick. First, deterministic, and the second is randomized. If I want to be able to search for values in that column later on, or use that for joining that value with a different table and so on, then I definitely need to pick deterministic, so that the server doesn't know and see the data, but still is able to search for the encrypted value. And birthday, I pick a complete randomized option, which means that I'm not able to use that anymore from the server side at all. I also need to create a column encryption key. So it will create a new one for me. So let's click next. And then the question is, how does that column and master key will be stored, and where is that encryption key stored? I could use for central space to store that an Azure Key Vault, but to keep that sample extremely simple, I pick the Windows certificate store, so my local certificate store. So I need to secure that key somewhere else out of that machine. So if my machine is gone at some point in time, I could restore that. And for the master key source, I'm using the current user. So click OK. And I don't want to create a script. I want to run it right away. So proceed to finish now. Review what I clicked so far. That's good. And now the system is generating keys for me, storing them into my local Windows certificate store. And then I can store encrypted columns in there. Perfect. That passed. So I created a master key, stored it locally, created a column encryption key, which is secured by the master key, and created everything I needed on the server side. So I can close that and start creating my application. And I'm switching to Visual Studio for that. So let's create a complete new project. In my case, I'm using a console application with a full .NET framework and call it Always Encrypted Console App. Let's click OK. So the first thing I want to do is add a new class for the patients. Call it patient, make that class public, and of course add a few properties. One for the social security number, one for the first name, the last name, and the date of birth. So I can save that and move to the main program. And in the main program, I want to create a property for the connection string. Just call it connection string. And the connection string I can get directly from the Azure portal. So let's move to the Azure portal. And in that portal, I can use show database connection strings, copy that, switching back to Visual Studio, and paste the copy string in here. And there are two things I need to change. First of all, the username. And the second thing I need to change, of course, is the password. So I've got the password or the username changed and have it in here. And I can start creating my application. I want to make my life a little bit easy, so that's why I used the SQL Connection String Builder class for that. So let me quickly type that in. And of course, so adding the missing reference. And with that class, there is a property in there called column encryption setting, which I just enable. And therefore, my IDEO.NET provider knows that I want to use the encrypted. For all the others, I just need to add a few things to the connection string or one property to the connection string to do the same thing with other providers. And I'm going to show you that in a few minutes in SQL Management Studio. So that's for the first part. And I also need some helper methods. And the first thing I want to implement is, of course, cleaning up the table. And in that method, I'm just calling truncate table patients to have a fast way to clear out that table. I'm, of course, doing a connection to that database using my connection string and then call that command. And the second method I want to implement is a method to insert new patients. And in here, I'm using the insert into statement, providing all the relevant parameters, specifying the parameters in the code, adding that to the command, and then executing that command. And if an error happens, of course, exit the whole application. So having those created now, I can go back into my main method and implement those. First, of course, I'm resetting that values and then inserting some sample data with the social security number, a first name, a last name, and a birthday, and having those in here. And after that, I want to retrieve the data. After I stored it, I want to retrieve the data. Therefore, again, I want to implement some new helper methods. One to select all patients, just doing a normal select and using a reader object to retrieve everything and adding those to a collection of patients. And last but not least, create a select patient by social security number to search for a particular patient with a social security number and adding those in there as well. And of course, delivering either the found patient or a null object. And again, I'm using those to implement everything in the main method. So just giving some calls to the console, then of course reading all patients, delivering them in kind of a table structure, and then of course asking for a social security number so that users can enter that, and then I'm searching for a particular social security number. So let's compile and run that. And it's storing data in the database, then showing the data back on the screen. And now I can search for social security numbers. And I'm retrieving one single value back, or one single patient back. Let's have a look in SQL Server Management Studio to see how that looks like on the database side. So switching to that database, I just want to retrieve the first 1000 rows. And you see the social security number as well as the birth date is completely encrypted. And if I want to show those values, and since I'm logged into a machine where the keys are stored, I can do one thing. First disconnect from that database, then trying to reconnect, type in my password, and there's a button called Options, and I can go directly to the additional connection parameters, and for example, type in colon encryption setting equals enabled, and that's exactly what I should add to the connection string as a separate value if I want to retrieve or enable the functionality to use local keys. Let me connect to that database again, just to be on the safe side, closing the existing connections on that side, opening the database, navigate to that table, and again select the first 1000 rows. And now it's warning me. I'm enabling that again, and now I can really see the social security number as well as the birth date, and I'm only able to do that because I'm working on the machine where the master and the column encryption key is stored. Otherwise I won't be able to retrieve those values. So that should be it for this step-by-step tutorial. I hope you liked it. If you have any other suggestions, any video, any topic I could cover, so please use the comment section below and let me know what you think about this video or about topics I could cover. And I'm looking forward to see you soon.